I'm Michel Holland. I'm a senior solutions consultant at Marketo. I was going to tell you a little story about myself. About 5 years ago, I was a marketing director for a small company in Sydney, Australia. And one of my remit was to actually go out to market, select a CRM and a marketing automation platform. So I ended up with Salesforce. And since we were reselling an Oracle product, I ended up having to buy Eloqua, right? Implemented it, used it for 2 years, and then I had the folks from Marketo come in and give me a demo. And after the demo, I walked up to the sales manager and I asked him for a job. And I was hired that week, and it's been 5 years, right? So Marketo has been really important to me, right? Throughout for using it within my career. Now, so I've been asked to come and talk to you a little bit about Marketo, where it sits in the Adobe stack, but also one of the reasons why Adobe chose Marketo to purchase is that it helps fulfill a lot of the sort of B2B components that applications like Adobe Campaign actually don't fulfill. So I was just going to start out here. For a lot of marketers right now, what we have is that we have people that are looking to personalize through email. We have 87% of people like personalizing through email, 51% through mobile devices, and 38% personalizing across all channels. And so what they need is these applications to orchestrate that sort of personalization. And so, like I had mentioned earlier, that Adobe had acquired Marketo to fulfill this sort of missing B2B piece within their application stack. And so if you can see there that we fall within that Adobe Marketing Cloud. And what's so exciting and what Klassen was talking about is that this being part of that Adobe Marketing Cloud, that we're going to have the ability or have the opportunity to have all of that amazing development that his team is doing as part of that application. So what we want to do is we want to talk about what is B2B marketing and why is Marketo important. So on the top of mind of B2B marketers, we have things like buyer personas, funnel stages, buying groups, B2B specific taxonomy, like it says there, nurture campaigns, and pipeline attribution. These are all very B2B specific marketing attributes that need to be managed. And so there's a big difference between Marketo and campaign. For example, with an audience, you have essentially a buying group within an organization as part of that audience that you'll be marketing to. And you have Adobe Campaign, which is really focused on B2C, which is focused on that individual. Marketing is different. Marketing, we look at content marketing, we look at pipeline marketing, we look at nurturing, scoring, et cetera. As Adobe Campaign, we're looking more at awareness, transactional things, mostly focused around that sort of B2C, high transactional, high volume sort of communication. Now, within B2B, the buying journey is essentially considered. And so what we have is we have a focus on those sorts of buying, it's all sorts of buying processes that have usually take into account a large group of people within an organization, making different decisions along that pipeline, and then with B2C we have more of that short transitional journeys, for example. And then the sales models are completely different, meaning that you have sales teams that are involved in that B2B side, and usually it's up to the individual consumer to make those choices, on the B2C side. And then our channels are a little bit different in terms of, we have our sales teams as part of the channels, online channels, any of our ads channels. But, in the B2C side, we're having people that have in-store experience, et cetera. Okay. So let's dig deep into that marketing side of it. So within B2B, we really focus on that account record. We really focus on the account and all the stakeholders that are involved in that account. And so we have to look at certain things like team attributes. We look at who's involved in those teams. We look at the firmographics of that organization and use those firmographics to make our decisions in terms of, what organizations are we going to market to, what organizations fit the best customer profile. We look at things like demographics like title, what contacts that we have within those organizations, and we also utilize lead scoring. Now within Marketo, we have this ability to actually weight and score on every single data point that we actually capture against a contact. And that really means that really what we can do is we can start to take a look at it. We can weight and score on any sort of behaviors. So for example, if they hit the website, we give them a point. They open an email, 3 points. Watch a video, 5 points. Go to an event, 10 points, etc. Get my drift. So we utilize this lead scoring not only to help them qualify into the different sort of stages that they might be going through, but we then use lead scoring to actually action sales teams to become involved. So if they hit 50 points, they're doing their due diligence, etc. Right? So we're able to reach out and get them involved. Now, what we also do is that not only do we use any of the marketing automation behavior, but then in concert with other applications such as CRM systems, we're able to then sync that data back and forth and utilize any of the sales activities in our marketing efforts. So if they have an opportunity open against them, stop marketing to them. For example, if they're a customer that's upset, then we can start to look at their different behaviors, and we're able to then utilize that data within our marketing efforts. And as you can see that, you can see that the Adobe campaign really focuses on that individual. So it's their behavior that they have on the website, it's their e-commerce, sort of interactions, it's their ad interactions, etc. And just even in this slide right here, you can see that there's really a distinctive difference between B2B and B2C, and this is one of the big reasons why Adobe purchased Marketo. Now, within marketing, within B2B marketing, we have different sets of KPIs to fulfill. So we're mostly focused on lead conversion. We're focused on the velocity of conversion from one funnel stage to another, like MQL to SQL to opportunity. We focus on long-term sort of nurture campaigns and their engagement within those campaigns. Also, we still look at things like interactions with communication, such as opens and click-throughs, etc. We look at the total costs, and like I had mentioned before, like velocity through those different stages. But one of the largest attributes and one of the biggest differentiators with Marketo is having the ability to measure revenue attribution on all of those marketing touch points. And so we have this ability to not only look at first touch attribution, but we can look at different modelings of attribution and look at multi-touch attribution models. So that allows us to really dig deep and understand exactly how effective our marketing activities are on our bottom line, right? And if you notice that on the campaign side, we really have some similar activities, since they're both marketing automation platforms. It really, but we can see that it's more of the interaction and the website visits and driving people back to those to that buying aspect. Now, I was told I have to read this word for word. So Marketo Engage brings marketing and sales together in a single solution designed to orchestrate personalized experiences, optimize content, and measure business impact across every channel, from consideration to conversion and beyond. And market leaders choose Marketo Engage to drive growth with lead management, accounts-based marketing, or hybrid strategies. All right, I did my job there. Now, the way the application is constructed is that we essentially have this foundation layer, which essentially is the database. This foundation layer, what we do is we essentially have at the center what we call a person record. That person record essentially receives or contains all of the data that's associated with that person, right? That's all of their behavioral aspects, and any of the fields that are associated with that person. And so it's not necessarily a relational database. It's actually a flat database where that person record is in the center. So that's essentially where that is there. Now, what we have are certain modules that are associated with that database, such as marketing activities, design activities, et cetera. So that's essentially what builds up that application. Now, at 3:30, I'm going to demo all of this, right? So I'll have you join me, and I'll really walk through the application, explain what the modules look like, explain how they actually work within that application. So having this person-centered database allows us to then utilize these modules, execute our marketing campaigns through the various channels that you see across the top, through email, through web personalization, through mobile and texting, push notifications, events, et cetera. Okay. Now, some of the key capabilities of Marketo are real differentiators, especially with other applications in the market. Like, for example, like I just mentioned, having that integrated customer profile. Having that person record at the center allows us to keep and understand all influences that actually happen with that individual. That individual may be attached to accounts, which may be attached to opportunities, et cetera. So that allows us, having that sort of ability, that integrated customer profile is part of that key capability. Now, cross-channel journey orchestration, we have as part of our application what we call lifecycle modeler. And what that is part of the application that allows us to define certain rules or certain stages that people might be in within that conversion funnel, and also define what it is to transition from one stage to another. Every single organization is totally different, and they manage their conversion funnel differently. And that's what Marketo, one of the biggest differentiators, is allowing marketers to actually define what that customer journey looks like and manage how they're going to manage that transition, but also manage and understand the velocity of that conversion, right? And at the same time, setting the basis for any sort of multi-touch revenue attribution. So that's a huge differentiator. Now, when we talk about personalization at scale, we have the ability within Marketo to not only personalize landing pages through what we call personalized tokens, but we have this ability to actually display dynamic content, not only in landing pages, but also within email. So having that ability to, on the fly, essentially render an email, personalize the email, send it out. As they click to a landing page, having the same sort of data being displayed to them. So what that means is you have different variants of one landing page that's individualized for every single visitor. And just recently, one of the applications that we just developed was what we call Content AI. And what that does is that allows the marketer to essentially discover all of the content that they've created, such as press releases, blog posts, videos, et cetera. And what we do is we use an AI engine or this machine learning engine to actually position pieces of content to individuals on their either subsequent visits to the website or as they open up an email. So it'll look at their past behaviors and look at the different categories that they may have been engaged in, and then essentially create a propensity model that says, you're going to like this blog post probably better than these other blog posts, right? And so we're able to then position that sort of thing. That's kind of a new concept that we have. Another aspect is, or another real capability and differentiator with Marketo, is this ability to actually essentially handshake with the CRM, with the sales team. And what we have is an application called Marketo Sales Insights. And what this does is that it's Marketo Sales Insights. It integrates with CRMs such as Salesforce, such as Microsoft Dynamics. And what it does is it allows the marketer to actually define certain what we call interesting moments. These might be behaviors that show a propensity for conversion. We can pass those over in real time to the salespeople. Also, we were able to pass over any of the scoring that they have and any of the emails or any of the other interactions and how far they've interacted with a lot of our material. So that's a plugin. We also just recently created what we call Sales Connect, and this essentially works in tandem with their CRM data and with Marketo data, which allows salespeople to actually create their own sort of nurturing campaigns, sort of sales nurturing campaigns, set up their own cadences, and drive different tasks, right? And like I mentioned earlier, looking at attribution and measurement, and having that ability to look at multi-touch attribution across all of our different channels. Recently, we've just purchased Visible, which allows us to really dig deep into understanding any of the interactions that they might have with any online advertising. So if they clicked on an ad, if they hit the website, if they went to an event, etc. Looking at the opportunity record, then we are able to then take a look at the value of every piece of content that's actually out there that influenced those individuals, right? So by 2008, by the end of last year, we had over 5,000 customers in 56 countries. We had over 400 billion activities tracked throughout the application, and we have over 550 technology and services partners. Now, we have a website called launchpoint.marketo.com, which essentially lists all of these partners. We have a lot of technology partners, such as integration partners and other technology partners that help augment any of the sort of B2B marketing activity. Such as, for example, there's a company called Octopost, which essentially is more B2B focused social engagement that's integrated with Marketo. So essentially using Octopost to listen and post socially, and the integration then pushes those individuals back into Marketo and then allows them for any sort of triggered communication. Now, like you see here, what we've been able to do is enable customers, across a vast amount of different industries. Technology, financial services, manufacturing, and distribution. Now, if you notice, there's some there that you would think, well, that's not necessarily B2B. You have healthcare, you have education, travel, automotive. What Marketo does is essentially, it works well with a long-term buyer's journey. So even in that B2C space, like for example in automotive, what we do is that you have people that are doing their due diligence. They're going out, they're studying about the car, they're reading reviews, they're taking test drives, and Marketo can track all of that behavior right up to that transaction. So this allows us to position these different automotive companies, for example. And I had the opportunity to work with Toyota in Australia at that time. Now, just was going to show you just a couple use cases. For example, our customer Charles Schwab, one of the issues that they had was, one is that they were having a hard time understanding what the velocity of that conversion through that conversion funnel, and how often and what sort of communication were going out to those folks. They weren't tracking any of that. And secondly, what they did not have is they did not have the ability to essentially place people on nurture tracks that were within each one of those stages on that conversion funnel. And at the same time, not able to essentially measure any of their success through an attribution model. And so that's essentially what Marketo came in, was able to help them differentiate, people across that funnel, set up those nurturing streams that were relevant to those stages, and also measure the success on that, right? Okay. And our folks over at Insight, one of the things that they are having issues with was actually presenting the right kind of content to people at the right time. And so utilizing that content AI application, they were able to do so. Same time, looking at that sort of life cycle and understanding exactly how people convert. But also one of their issues was how they were able to tie in multiple marketing teams across the globe into one application, into one instance. And so Marketo contains what we call workspaces and partitions, which allows global marketing teams to utilize and execute marketing campaigns within their own regions, but also only market to their region through the use of these person partitions and workspaces. All right. So what are we focusing on here in 2019? We're in the middle of actually a beta release with our new UI. We're developing with Adobe in terms of moving the platform into an enterprise level application. Working with sales and marketing partnership and augmenting that. Attribution analytics as we take our visible product and the internal Marketo applications or analytics and working together with Adobe to essentially integrate those into Adobe Analytics. Utilizing Sensei AI in creating adaptive campaigns, such as sending emails to individuals at the times that show a propensity for them to actually open. So essentially right now in B2B marketing, I'll send out an email to everybody, for example, at 8 a.m., hoping that will be the best time for them to actually interact. With AI, what I'll be able to do is actually send at individual times where an individual shows that propensity for actually engaging with that content. We're augmenting our partner ecosystem and focusing on our ABM tool, which then allows us to really focus on not only accounts, but all those stakeholders, for example, that are involved in those accounts, and any sort of integrations with Adobe. Now, what does that look like? So what we have here is that we're looking to integrate with Experience Manager and move those segments across those different applications, so pulling in segments for each one of those. Now, another, like I just mentioned before, we're looking to also enhance our reporting and attribution models with Adobe Analytics. But also, this is the one that we're really excited about, is that having the ability to use Adobe Creative Suite within the application. So one of the biggest asks from our customers has always been, can you develop a sort of production line for any sort of asset creation, wherein we have different people to sign off and develop those assets before they get sent out. And right now you don't have that ability to do this. So we're very excited to see that.